Let's all rise to pledge the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So as you notice, there's only, here's Mr. Ahmed, very good. Only the three of us tonight. We have, some of our members are out due to illness or they're away. So we're not going to open with a formal motion, but we're here for the budget hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lochner so that he can introduce Ms. O'Connor, who will conduct the hearing for us.
Thank you, Ms. Burgos. It is my pleasure. Could we please have a drum roll, please? I'm going to introduce our... And here she is, our Assistant Superintendent in charge of Finance and Operations.
Well, thank you very much. As we know, tonight's supposed to be our formal budget meeting, so thanks for that formal introduction. But yeah, tonight will be a summary of the items that we've covered already. So we'll just put it all together and you'll see, exactly what's in the budget. So I will share my screen.
How about you? We're losing it?
Yeah. So it's the budget hearing. I'm Stacy O'Connor, as you just heard, and Mr. Lochner is here with me as well.
I just want to say beautiful choice of colors.
You like that?
Yes.
Yeah. Very colorful presentation. Jazzed it up a couple years ago. So the proposed budget that we're putting before the community on the 16th is $561,203,261. That's an increase of over 50, almost 58 million from the current school year, or an 11.49% increase. The tax levy, as you'll hear throughout the presentation, is remaining the same as it is this year. In terms of the state budget, it was quite late this year, over a month late, but it was a very good budget for education. Statewide, the increase is over $3 billion, about $3.2 billion for education. For the Brentwood community, that's an increase of $78 million. That's not much different than I presented at the revenue meeting. Even though that wasn't the final number, but our final number did come in within like 100,000 of that. So that's very, very positive for the district. As you know, it's the final year, the third year of the foundation aid phase-in. So for next school year, we will have our full foundation aid that we were promised back in the early 2000s. There's also an additional increase in funding for UPK. That's about $1 million. That's not a general fund. We're voting on the general fund budget, or we're talking about that tonight. That goes into the special aid fund, but that is worth mentioning because we can get more kids into our UPK program next year. And one of the things I know Eric is very happy about is we no longer have to submit the school-based budgeting reports. And that was a very, very cumbersome report that we had to do annually. However, the ESSER report still exists, so you still have to do one, but not the two. One is based on budgeting, the school-based budgeting, and the ESSER report that I'm referring to is still school-based, but that's based on our actual expenditures at the end of the year. So we'll start on the revenue, talking about revenue, and then I'll move into expenditures a little bit later in the presentation. But the revenue that's supporting the budget, you'll see a large increase in state aid because of what we just talked about, the foundation aid being fully funded at 78.3%. That's how much state aid is now supporting our budget. I'm going to show you a trend in state aid on the next slide. The next biggest revenue supporting the budget is our tax levy, along with our STAR revenue, which comes from the state as well. That's the school tax relief that community members may see on their tax bill. And then there are some other miscellaneous revenues also at 1.8%. What's missing from this chart this year for the first time is our appropriated fund balance. We've done that for years, But because the state is giving us so much aid, that's not something we have to do right now. So that is, that's a very positive thing for the district as well. So if we look at our state aid as a percent of the budget, if we go back to 2021, it was close to 63% of our revenue that supported the budget. Went up about 5% the following year. The next 21-22 through 23-24, those are the years that our foundation aid started being fully funded. It was a 3-year process. So you can see it went up about 5% each year, which is, again, very positive. This is all good stuff for the district. So it went from 63% to over 78% in those 3 years. If we look at our tax levy and the impact that the additional foundation aid has had on our tax levy, the full bar represents the allowable tax levy, how much we could have levied. And then that little white bar, the lighter colored bar within the full bar, is how much we actually levied. So in the 1920 school year, we could have levied 4.03%, meaning we could have increased the tax levy by 4.03%. Instead, we only increased it by 1.03%. The following year, 21-22, we could have increased it 3.65%. We only increased the levy by 2.5%. And then the next few years, we could have increased between 3.5% and 4%, and we're not increasing the levy at all. The tax levy that we ask the town for, that the community contributes, has remained at $111 million. This will be our 4th year at that tax levy. And if you think about it, the first year, 1920, we could have levied, like I said, at 4.03%. The following year, we could have levied 3.65%. That could have compounded over the years. So if you think by what we actually did, it's not just the individual percentages each year, because there's a compounding effect, so that grows even more. So that's even additional savings to the community. One question, the first year that we didn't increase the levy, one question that we got, and I really want to make this clear, and I've said it again and again, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself on this. But the question that we got was, well, my taxes changed, even though you said you're not going to increase taxes. And there's a difference between the tax levy and the tax rate that people pay, the homeowners pay. So the tax levy is that $111 million, that total amount that we ask the town to collect on the school district's behalf. It goes into the calculation of how much the tax rate is, but it's not the only factor. So the tax rate is actually calculated by taking that full levy and dividing it by the assessed values within the district. In Brentwood, we break it up between homestead and non-homestead, which are the residents and the commercial properties. And then you get a different tax rate for the homeowners, a different tax rate for the businesses. The businesses actually pay a little bit higher of a tax rate. I don't get that information from the town, how they're going to break up those assessments or what the full assessments are. A lot change throughout the district each year. But I don't get that till August, so I can't really project what that rate is going to be right now. And then your school taxes, you look at your individual home tax assessed value, and you multiply it by the tax rate that I was just talking about in the previous bullet. So can property tax change if the levy remains the same? And the answer to that, again, is yes. With the school tax factors, it's not only the tax levy that we just talked about, we're not changing that. It's the assessed value of your own home. Things can change on your home. You could qualify for an exemption, a firefighter exemption, military exemption, disability exemption. You could add to your house, and the assessed value could actually go up. Maybe you do an addition or something. And then there are those adjusted base proportions. That's that division that the town does between homestead and non-homestead. Any shift in that will also change your taxes, even if the levy doesn't change. There's also the STAR program, the School Tax Relief Program. I have the website listed at the bottom of this slide. If you're not signed up for that, it's free for every homeowner. If you're in your primary home, there are a few qualifications, but it does reduce your taxes. You'll get a check back each year. Why not? So overall property taxes are not just your school taxes. That's another thing to remember. So even if everything stays the same, the tax levy, the assessed values stay the same, your exemptions, and your school taxes don't change, the county tax can change, the town of Islip tax rate can change, the fire district, the library. So just, although school districts are the biggest portion of your taxes, we're not the only portion of your taxes. So any of those factors can change the taxes even though we're keeping the levy the same amount.
Okay, it's important to note that last year, we were most of the homestead amount, and I know you spoke about that last year, when you were surprised about the.
Yeah, there's a shift every year, and the town follows some law or regulation where they shift between homestead and non-homestead. That's the homeowners and the businesses. And it does tend to shift taxes more towards the residents. But they do those calculations. It's nothing that we do here, but some years it's a little, some years it's, even a little bit more. If we go back years ago and think about Heartland, when they were gonna build all those apartments, well, apartments are considered businesses, so that would have gone on the non-homestead portion. It actually would have lowered the taxes for the businesses in the district, but raised the taxes, because more assessed value would have been pushed to the residents in the district. Didn't happen, doesn't look like it's happening, but that would have been the result of Heartland, had that been built. Now we'll look at the expenditure side of the budget. Again, a recap from the first slide, $561 million. You can see the increase there in dollars and percent. We can look on this slide at where those changes are coming from, and I'll go into it on the next few slides, what you're getting for this increase. The certified salaries are going up about $18 million. I'll detail that. Those are the teachers, the administrators, and the TAs, our teaching assistants, are included in that area. The NC salaries are non-certified, going up about $4 million. That's everybody else in the district. Our nurses, our food service workers, custodians, security, B&G, everybody else in the district. BOCES is going up about $6 million. The majority of that increase is actually special education. We're seeing kids come with more severe disabilities. So we're sending more to BOCES, and it's just costing more, and they have a new model staffing-wise to deal with some of the behaviors that we've been seeing lately. There are contractual increases, utilities, construction costs, that's some of our security things, professional development, IT, contained in there. Supplies and equipment are going up just under $2 million, and our interfund transfer is actually going down about $7.5 million. If you recall, in the current school year, we prepaid some of our debt on construction that we did, our first energy performance contract. So think about that as the mortgage on your house. Like, we did some construction, we had to take out a loan. So you buy a house, you have to take out a mortgage. Well, we were able to prepay that mortgage, or what's known as debt service, to a school district, just one piece of our debt service. So that was a one-time payment, so we avoided all of the remaining interest payments on that debt service, so we don't have to make any payments anymore, principal or interest, and we're going to continue to get building aid on that for the next few years. So it was a positive for the school district. Highly unusual. Absolutely. Yep. So some of the staff additions within the budget, we saw that was going up quite a bit. And we have the 9-period day at the middle schools, which is very exciting. We're going to give so much more to our middle school children. Additional kids taking those honors type classes which will set them up for success as they move through the freshman center in high school. That's several teachers. That could be in the area of 10 teachers per school with 4 middle schools. That could be, around 40 teachers alone. We have other teaching positions due to growth at the elementary level. I know we need some classroom teachers as well as special area teachers. That's like your phys ed teacher, your art teacher, music teachers. High school, I know we're looking to add some additional course offerings there. Ms. Wanda Ortiz explained that in her presentation a month or so ago. Our financial literacy, our business classes, just to name a few, and we need some for growth as well. Our bilingual teachers, we're seeing a higher population of bilingual students, so we have to add teachers to service their needs. And also our PPS staff, which is our special education staff. It can include classroom teachers, guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists. We're looking to add in all of those areas. We're also looking to add security guards to provide more coverage within our schools. We have some clerical positions in the budget, as well as some IT positions. We really, when we went to a one-to-one environment where each student gets a laptop, it's a lot of work on our IT staff and maintaining our network, so we're going to add a little bit there as well. At the bottom there, you also see grant adjustments. When Dr. Leone presented a few weeks ago, he talked about alphabet soup, all the federal stimulus money we got, the Carissa, the ARP, the ESSER, the GEAR. But our Carissa grant is ending this school year. So any salary that we have within that grant, we tried not to make it all salary because we knew eventually when those funds ran out, we'd have to move them to the general fund. So this is the shift of existing staff. It's not anybody new, but we have to take them off those federal funds and move them into the general fund area. Some other additions outside of staffing, we have some science supplies or investigations. It's a new curriculum, so they need new labs. It's kind of neat stuff. So we're gearing up for that. We're looking at some technology items like a laser engraver and routers for our kids in their technology, meaning like the shop classes. In the music area, we're looking at some music risers and instrument closets. Sporting area, I know he's looking at some additional equipment and supplies, some lacrosse equipment, as well as some backboards. Graphing calculators, when we add those additional courses at the middle schools, especially math classes, they'll need the graphing calculators to go along with that. We're looking at library improvements. We did great things in libraries this year with the Ross Library. Sonderling Library is going to get done over the summer. We might even start later in the school year. And then we're making room for more library improvements throughout the district. Yeah, yep. The FACS kitchens, Family and Consumer Science kitchen renovations, long overdue at the middle schools. We're going to renovate them this summer, both in all of the middle schools. We're going to add late buses at the elementary schools. That's something that we had many years ago, and we're going to add that back. We're going to see how often we can do it. We're certainly not promising every day of the week. But, you know, we'll definitely do 1 to 2 days a week at our elementary schools. We hope for 2. Yeah.
We're putting the schedule together soon.
We'll probably be at 2 days a week for
Okay.
the elementary schools.
Yeah, that's really important so that all children will have the opportunity
Yeah.
to partake of the program, so.
Yeah, it's not only extra help for them, it's enrichment as well. So there's, you know, some pretty cool stuff.
And
that
we'll be
they're
able to
planning.
run additional clubs
Yep.
as well down there.
Yep. Wi-Fi expansion, we know we have some areas throughout the district with a weak signal, so we're gonna look for those areas and you know, put up some extra access points there. All the students have laptops now, so we need them to be able to use them. And what we've talked about a lot throughout this year, you know, we are the Brentwood Indians, and that's, you know, sadly gonna be changing, so we're gonna need to update all of our logos and our uniforms. So we'll start that, you know, as soon as we decide on what that mascot will be. And it's things that you don't even think of. I mean, obviously on the floor here, but when I'm talking to the guys before the meeting, it's on their uniforms. So I had meant sport uniforms here, but it's really everywhere throughout the district, and it's gonna be a large undertaking, but, you know, we're gonna do what's right, as Mr.
And we
Wiltshire said.
do have a couple of years,
Yeah,
you know, thankfully, they gave us the 24, 25, but if we make that decision next year, we actually have a year before it actually is official.
yeah,
And then I'm sure that even at that point, they'll give
school districts sometimes to transition out. But obviously we're putting money this year into the budget for it.
Right, and there's a bill, excuse me, at the state level where they're trying to get this eligible for state aid. Any project, they're calling it, over $10,000.
That's what you said, right?
Yeah, so I'll keep my eye on that. It's not anything that's been approved at this point, but, if that happens, we will certainly take advantage.
And we still, just to be clear, we still have not received any guidance from the state. Because I did say at the last meeting that I would send out a letter to the community, and I really was under the impression it would be within the next few days. You remember our last meeting? And typically, guidance comes out a little quicker than this. So I don't really want to send a letter out to the community and then maybe have some components incorrect in terms of the transition, so.
I've always been of the feeling also that I like the idea that we have some time in between to let the community get used to the change.
Right.
Because it really is a dramatic change. A lot of us, I think probably everyone in this room just about, is a Brentwood graduate, and, it's something we grew up with, and it's a part of, everything. My children played sports, they have race, they have all kinds of things. So it's really a big, big deal for the
Right.
community. So I like the fact that we can kind of ease into it and
Yeah.
have a lot more community input. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's welcome.
Exactly.
Some capital improvements that are in the district. I allocated $14.5 million in what's known as a transfer to capital line. We've done this for the past few years, and that's how we're doing our turf fields, at least the soccer stadium and some of the other improvements that are about to start. Can't wait for them to start.
Stacey, I'm sorry, because I know I had to clarify this one. So these are funds that are already appropriated to specific projects that we're
Yes.
setting aside?
Yes,
Yeah,
We
and
have to.
I'll name these projects.
right. They have to be named.
Yes.
We can't later on come up with,
No, I
Project.
understand.
Yeah,
No, it's a good
when
question.
when funds are placed in a transfer to capital line, the state is actually going to ask for a copy of this slide so they know what I communicated to the community about where these funds are gonna go. So either in the bulletin or this slide. But this is for the possible procurement of a building or land and renovating it. There's some areas we're looking into, some possibilities, and we're very excited about it. And when we know more information, we will certainly share that with the community, but should it come to fruition, we're ready.
Just to clarify also, the reason we're looking into is because we're really capped at our capacity in our buildings. So we need to expand, somewhere. So if we're able to do that. it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. We've identified 3 different areas that we would possibly use additional space for. So, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, we could use that space. And, our intention is that if it is special ed, that we take some of the kids back onto the campus.
Well, there's a lot of possibilities, right?
Yeah.
Because we're also talking about expanding,
EIP, we're looking at that as well.
We need office space, we need testing
Right.
space, there's just like so many different needs. So
Mhm.
if we are able to secure the properties, then we can really talk about, what we're gonna put in.
Okay,
Yep.
in addition to that, there's some funds for phase 2 of our turf work, the football field in the pavilion in the middle that I had showed a rendering of at a previous board meeting, I believe it was last fall. We're also looking to increase storage space and add an additional warehouse within the district and upgrade a fire alarm at the high school. These are one-time expenditures, and that is in the budget. So there's, as you saw, there's no increase to debt service. That was actually going down, as I said, and no increase to the tax levy. It will remain at the 111 million.
So I just wanted to add so that the community is aware, in addition to the potential procurement of space, the audit committee, which I have the pleasure of chairing, and Trustee Safari is also on, we are dedicated to trying to ensure that we're utilizing our space to its maximum ability and we are also trying to ensure that there is no space that is being unused. So we're doing both simultaneously.
Thank you.
Some other capital work that's contained within this budget, we're gonna renovate some more parking lots, this year. We did, I think 6 or 7 last year. So that'll be fully paved. A number of them, we're gonna do curbing, and, North Elementary in particular is gonna have a whole new layout, in their parking.
And Twin Pines and Pine Park as well. We're gonna redo their parking lot.
Yep, yep.
Is
But
that
that-
solar finished yet everywhere?
No, the solar is continuing, especially at the high school. They just started Northeast now as well, so it's coming to an end, but it's not finished. I figure by the end of the year, we'll probably be finished. Security improvements, we're gonna add more cameras where we, have some spots now that we can't see. We started with vape detectors this school year, and they worked very well, so we're gonna add some more of them. And we're looking at some security, door security, additional security. So when a door opens, when it, middle of the day, when it really shouldn't open, it'll flash on the screen. Security now has a camera room. So they have somebody monitoring the cameras all day. So if a door opens that really shouldn't be open at a specific time, we can program it when we wanna know, when we don't wanna know. It'll come up right on the screen. And when I say when we wanna know and don't wanna know, arrival time, I don't wanna see every time a door opens or, when kids are leaving, because it'll just overwhelm the system at that time, because we know the doors are gonna open. So it does have analytics, and we can add all of that.
And we have had, more elopements over the last year or two. And elopements, those would be kids who are runners.
The elementary level.
At the elementary level. And that's particularly where we'll focus, these, that door security. You'll take a typical elementary school, obviously we have most of the doors covered, but there are still exits that are down a hallway, and obviously when everybody's in class, no one's really covering them, so what
I
these,
had a runner.
you had to run?
So did I.
Boy, could he run fast.
So it's not uncommon, we
No,
have,
it's not.
elopements, so,
20 years ago, maybe a little
Yep.
more.
yep. So this will help
It's
them
scary.
too.
It really is, like having had children who try to remote.
Yeah.
It's scary for everyone, the teachers and
Right.
the administrators are running after them. As a parent, you're like running to the school, oh my God. So it's really like, I like that we're doing, putting
Yes.
these measures in place.
Yeah, some proactive measures to watch
Stacy,
them.
can I ask you, before you go on with the list, I don't see man traps on here. Is that because it's not part of this particular budget?
That
I
was
know
in
we
la,
had it budgeted.
that was in last year's capital
Okay,
improvements.
and
So-
we're just waiting for those,
I'll get to that on the next
Yeah.
one.
There are some projects that, I also wanted to mention the cafeterias,
Yes, the cafeteria.
but those were in last year's budget.
Right.
So we put it in last year's budget, so it's been
And
encumbered.
it's on hold
But
until.
it's, right. Yeah.
Does everybody know what the man traps are? Yeah, just another security measure to protect.
Right, that would be your main entrance. So if somebody comes in and let's say they want to drop something off for their student, a book bag or lunch or whatever, they forgot to bring their lunch. You would enter the building, but you would be confined in a specific area, and you could talk to the security guard there or whoever that particular school has at the door. You can't enter the building, you're gonna be locked in that area, and you could just leave whatever the item is with the security guard. If there's a reason to enter the building, obviously, they'd let you in, there'd be another door from the inside to let you in. But any visitor would first be assessed by the guard to see what they wanted, within a confined area. That's what a man trap is, yes.
Well, the first budget
Yeah.
was for.
The funding from last year was for the elementary
Elementary.
schools.
Yeah, the intention is to do the middle schools as well. If you actually go to Southeast, they probably have one that's, the best example of a man trap would be at Southeast.
I know what they look like. My grandson goes to BOCES and they have that there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's very confining for the visitor. It's not fun, but it's protective for the staff and the students.
Well,
Yeah.
it is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
unfortunately for the visitor, but it's really designed for someone who's a danger to the school population, because they'll be trapped, obviously trapped in that middle area.
you know, to answer Brendan's question, when are we budgeting for the middle schools to get these, you know, hand trucks and things?
I would think, because we only budgeted for the elementary, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we'll probably put that in next year's budget. Because a lot of these expenditures that, you know, Stacy's speaking about, I mean, you know, like she said, we're putting 14.5 million this year into the budget. They're encumbered for those specific projects. I think next year we'll also have room in the budget for capital improvements.
Right, because that 14.5 million, we won't have to put back into the budget.
That's it.
That'll be gone, so we could, you know, appropriate, you know, different funds for,
And it's
or
much less.
funds for new projects. Where were we? Bus canopy, when we do the parking lot at North Elementary School, we're gonna redo their canopies as well. One kind of overhangs, the one right in front of the school overhangs the roadway a little bit, and every other year, I think it gets hit by one of our delivery
school is
trucks
it?
that
At
come.
North Elementary?
North
At North
Elementary.
Elementary.
Now,
In
when
the
they
front.
do the
Is it
solar, don't
overhang
they all
onto
get that?
White Street?
New canopy?
No, it overhangs onto the bus lane,
Oh, the bus.
the bus lane, just a little bit.
Just
and
a little bit, just enough.
Just enough, yeah,
Yeah.
that's very poor design, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't get a new canopy when they get the solar?
Their solar panels are on a canopy in the parking lot itself. This is gonna be along the school. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It depended on which way the building was oriented, whether we could put the solar panels on a canopy in front of a school and combine it like that, or if
We
we had to
hoped
put it into the
that-
parking lot.
We hope to do it more frequently. Remember when we initially looked at these years ago? But it didn't work out that way.
No.
No.
The solars.
We hoped that the solar panels would be, you know, we'd be able to incorporate that in a number of schools and into the bus canopy. But I don't think I don't think we have any.
No, we pulled that back because we like the lighting.
The lighting in the
on-
parking lot.
In the parking lot,
Yeah.
yeah, because when we put up the canopies in the parking lot, we also put lighting under the canopies when our parking lots were dark.
So the
East
solar
K
lighting.
has a canopy for the
Does it
school.
Oak Park too? Cause I remember being
We
there and they
replaced the
put
canopy,
that's
but
what
it doesn't have the solar on it.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's why. I
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah.
solar.
It was
Put
done
it
almost
down.
at the same
Yes.
time, yeah. When you
Yep.
close the school,
I
you,
was there,
you take
yeah.
advantage, yep. Gym floors is something that we did a number of last year. I know we're doing Ross and Sonderling and Southwest this year. There might be a couple more.
Stay tuned. The Sondling, I'd really love to do the multicolor, right? We're gonna do the mahogany
Yep.
look.
Yep.
Yeah, our high school's the only one that has the Indian head. Being with their feathers.
No,
I-
they all, even our new ones do,
Really?
yeah. That's not, believe it or
I
not,
know,
that's
it's
not the
not-
worst
right,
thing to
so just
replace.
sand.
You sand it.
You
put
sand
them
it down, and it's a decal,
Yeah.
so yeah, and that shouldn't be so bad.
Yeah. Bathrooms, we send out a memo, or Mike Cruz, I should say, sends out a memo, he's our director of facilities, to all of the principals and department heads asking, you know, what their needs are, or what their desires are. Just about every principal came up with redoing some bathrooms within their school. So we're gonna start setting aside money for bathrooms. We can't do them all in 1 year, but we're gonna, you know, look at the worst and see which ones we can do. Because there really is a need there. Some of them are
Sure.
quite old. It's expensive to do. It's, you know, well, it takes time, but little by little, we're looking to make improvements and get that done. The guard booth in front of the high school, we're going to replace that and get a nice new building there and do some work on the sides of the entrance to the high school as well, improve that a little bit. And then we're looking at some new vehicles, purchasing, security, B&G, they're all looking for new vehicles, so we added that into the budget as well. Some of the additional capital work, and I put various funding sources, because this is not in this year's budget, I know we're talking about, or the 23-24 budget, these funds for these things were in previous year's budgets, but I just thought it was nice to update, you know, while we were talking about so much capital work. Science classrooms at the middle schools, we're gonna replace or completely renovate 3 science rooms in each middle school. We're gonna be able to do 2 this summer, 2 middle schools this summer. Corridor ceilings at Ross, where you have the 1-by-1 tiles, we're gonna do as much as our money permits. You know, we have some alternates to do the whole thing, but we're gonna get as much of that done as we can. While we have that ceiling down, in the corridors, we're gonna run Cat 6 wire for our IT system, which will help improve the computer experience there. We'll eventually do that to Sonderling as well, but this summer will be Ross. The soccer field is about to start. We finally, that's the turf field, right here along Third Avenue. We finally have approval from the state. Rich and I have been going over the plans very carefully, and we're about to move forward with that.
We actually
Why don't
may
we
see
break
trucks,
ground,
we may
Yeah.
see trucks in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Have to let us know.
Yeah, no, we're like busted, Stacy and I, we're so excited about
Yeah.
this, so, yeah, we're very excited.
And that's gonna be the far end.
right along Third Avenue.
Across the school.
Yeah, where the girls play. Yep. HV,
I'm sorry.
Well,
Stacy.
that was one of the, Hassan, that's really one of the reasons we wanted to do it, because I think it's gonna be beautiful for the school, for the community to drive along Third Avenue
And see
and
progress.
see some
Yep.
spectacular field with a beautiful stadium and lights and a scoreboard and some beautiful brickwork and cement work, and it's really gonna be spectacular.
I just have a question. Did we get approval just for that phase or for the entire project?
just for that phase, and the ceiling work at Ross, that was tied
What I
to
mean,
it.
as far as the turf fields, I mean. we
Yes,
only-
as far as the turf, it's
That's
not
phase
even the
one.
pavilion, it's just
But you
that.
put in all that already?
We're working on all
Are
of
you
that,
working?
yeah. We knew that wouldn't be all in one year,
Right.
so,
No, no.
yeah, we had other things to put in for this, there's a lot going on. HVAC work, that's in our federal stimulus fund, so that's gonna start at secondary schools this year. That's replacing univents, to, better heating and ventilation within the schools. Pool lighting upgrade, we have temporary lights there right now that have served their purpose. But over the summer, we're gonna replace the lights with a permanent solution. We're also looking to resurface the pool, I don't have that up there, but we have to go out to bid on that. I'm not sure we'll get somebody in time, but if we can, we will certainly do that this year as well while it's closed to do the lighting. The solar project that you mentioned is nearing completion. I figure by the end of the year, that'll be complete. You see the solar canopies at all of our schools, or, if you don't see it there, you'll see it soon. North Middle School auditorium, we're looking to completely renovate next year. It'll probably start later in the school year next year and go over the following summer. Looking forward to that too. That's sorely needed, and we were going over the plans with the architect, Angel Perez and I, this morning, and it's really neat stuff, how much more advanced it is since, we did Sonderling and South Middle, Ross. We're awaiting state approval for the portable replacements, believe it or not. That's probably the project we put in, the first out of all of these projects with the state. So we still don't have that, so I can't move forward with that yet. And we just got approved.
We did get the secret, right?
No, the smart schools, no.
No, I'm talking about for the portables, I thought we took care of like the septic issue.
We're still waiting. Yeah. There are very few people working at the state. I think they have 3 people who approve projects for the whole state.
For the whole state.
Yeah,
And all of, many school
Not just-
districts have received additional money. So everybody's putting in projects.
Yeah.
Literally everyone's doing projects across the state, and I think that's, part of the whole thing.
yep, absolutely. We do have approval now for our cafeteria renovations and the man traps like we were discussing. I think it's too late to do it over the summer. I am checking with a contractor for timeline. Maybe I can get 1 or 2 done.
That's our hope, right?
Cafeteria.
Yeah, and the man trap. What?
Okay.
Okay,
I thought we were gonna get at least 1 to 2 done.
that's what I
That's
said.
what you said.
I'm checking with the contractor.
Well, that wasn't like so definitive. That was,
I don't know if they can get it done. I really don't.
You're talking about both the cafeteria and the restaurant?
Yeah,
in the
But
same,
how will we prioritize?
in the same
like,
school.
Oh, okay.
in the same school, we do a
In elementary
cafeteria, because we're shutting down some of the elementary schools, and we'd like to get a cafeteria and a man trap done in one of the 2 of the elementaries.
Over the summer.
But the high school's
Because
gonna
that's
be
all.
The high school eventually, yes. You know what, Stacy, I'm kidding around with her here, because she's actually just having so many problems getting contractors.
yeah.
And, just like I said, we said the state was overwhelmed, contractors are overwhelmed, you know, so they're quite busy doing work for all of the schools as well, so.
And they're especially overwhelmed with the federal stimulus money, because like I said, the Carissa grant ends the end of the summer, actually.
Have to spend it.
So that has to be spent, so they're getting a lot of pressure to do those projects before they do something like this, where the money won't time out.
Are we
So-
okay with those funds?
Oh, they'll be, yeah, what we put in a transfer to capital will stay until we spend it. Yep.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, no,
does,
we've
actually.
really
We
taken
do.
care of the
Yeah,
money
we
very
collect
well.
interest on the money, yes.
Interest.
Yep. And it's actually starting to go up, so it's worth something
That's what I'm
now,
saying.
yeah.
Good question.
And the old schoolhouse, very exciting, you see all the work going on
Yeah.
there. They had to actually jack up the roof, secure the walls, so that's already done. They're working on the roof now, and next is gonna be siding. After they finish the roof, they're gonna go right into the siding.
Yep.
So you're gonna see, a lot of improvements.
progress.
Very, very quickly.
Huh? Yeah. Well, that's where Cindy attended
Forward
school,
and back?
in the old
No, no,
schoolhouse,
Cindy Shea.
the late
Forward and back.
1800s.
What was
I
that?
said that's where you attended school, right? Late 1800s, right?
Yes.
I think her name is still carved in.
My name is,
With a heart.
We framed
Marshall.
it.
yes, yes,
Cindy loves Marshall.
yeah. That's how far we go back.
Oh, boy. Okay, so that's some of the exciting stuff we have going on through the district. Now back to the budget hearing. Unfortunately, I do have to go over what happens if the budget is not approved in a couple of weeks. So the board would have a few choices, and that would be, well, we have our statewide budget vote date, which is the third Tuesday in May. A budget revote date is always the third Tuesday in June. So the board can decide to just do this, just put out the same budget with the same levy for a revote in June. The budget can be changed, the levy can be changed for a revote in June, or they can just say, I don't want to go to a second budget vote, and I'll just go to a contingent budget. So that's the choice of the board.
So Stacy, because we're at zero levy though, like, we don't really have much of a negative, you know, I don't wanna say that too much, but, you know, like, we're in a good place that we can continue to, right? Kind of.
We're in a great place. I don't know why you would vote against the budget, but I don't want to.
Because we really are.
But we're not
It's
telling
a-
people how to vote.
We're not telling, but it is a 0%.
0%.
Right.
Since we're talking about the third Tuesday, I just want to clarify that falls on the 16th, so it's very important that the community vote on this budget
On the 16th, May 16th.
May 16th.
Probably have that.
I think
Good
the
point.
biggest drawback though is that we may, you know, we already are having problems with all these projects, and we may, you know, stall them even longer.
If that's,
That's right, because the money's still there, only the
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
Just like other
We
school
wanna get them
districts,
done.
I'm prioritizing what we're doing so we don't
Yes.
lose any of
No.
the money.
but it is important to note that if the budget does fail, we
Right.
can't do capital improvement
Yes.
projects.
I'm gonna get to that.
In the next slide, yeah,
No,
it's actually,
there is a very negative one.
is a very negative
Although,
impact.
you know, Other things aside, but, you know, there are some negative effects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the main contingent budget rule is that you can increase the levy. So whatever the levy is this year, it will have to be the same next year. The budget we're proposing has that same levy, so that wouldn't change. What would change, though, are the things we have to eliminate from the budget. We have to eliminate all equipment items except for computer hardware, up to the amount that the state aids us. So that's about $300,000 in computer hardware. So that puts into question if we could even do our
A
laptop
laptop
rotation.
exchange, yeah.
Because we could only buy 300,000 in laptops, and that wouldn't cover the 3 grades that we rotate every year. The capital projects I just talked about, the 14.5 million, I'd have to take out of the budget. We couldn't move forward with that under a contingent budget. Also, if organizations are gonna come use our facilities, any cost that we can assign to that, or that is attributable to that use of facilities, we'd have to charge that organization. If I need to bring in security or custodial help or, you know, anything else in the building that they would need, I would have to charge that organization for that. And also, there's a restriction on purchases of school supplies. You can only purchase non-contingent supplies, so things that are absolutely necessary. The graphing calculators, there's a question about that, because
Yeah,
a
there
lot
would
of
be.
districts charge for that. We don't, we buy them. So there would be a lot of supplies that we wouldn't be able to buy for the students under a contingent budget. So although the tax levy, it wouldn't change. Either way, but there are big ramifications under a contingent
My
budget.
sister went to school so many years ago.
Okay, you're probably gonna say what I'm.
And the budget didn't pass when I went to school, we didn't get buses.
I was just gonna say that, Cindy. And it always rained on the
And I
first day of
used-
school.
Yes,
The whole first
Remember.
week it would rain
And
and
we
parents
used to
would
have
be
to
running,
walk. until
Yeah.
they revoted.
Yeah.
and we used to pass.
Right, right.
But
But still,
I-
how does that
it,
work now?
I don't know
well,
whether we,
transportation, now we have to provide. So
yes,
they-
we have
the
to
state
provide
passed that law
transportation.
for
I don't
some
know
time.
whether we could, in all honesty, the old days, that was a scare tactics. The old days, not, all kidding aside, that was kind of a scare tactic that, school districts may take to, you threaten parents that you're gonna lose your football team, you're gonna lose
It wasn't a
transportation.
threat, they really had.
No,
it.
actually,
I
there
mean,
are times,
like,
though,
we did walk to
you
school
did.
and the teams
know.
really didn't play.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
And that's why now
And
there
to
is a,
walk. I was driven to school, that's how far, we both.
We would never do
My
that.
mother wasn't nice to drove us.
She didn't take the buggy? The
No,
horse and buggy? No?
No, no buggy, the
Okay.
horse was too tired. No.
That's because Cindy made it do all her errands the day before.
I do have a horse, believe it or not.
I believe you.
Okay, so-
just to be clear, that's why the state made a standard budget revote date, because that wasn't the case back then. So districts could decide when they wanted to revote, and some would wait as a scare tactic till September, October, when the parents
Wow.
really felt it. Then they'd
Interesting.
revote and like, yeah, I'm voting for that now.
Wow.
We can't do that anymore.
Interesting.
There's a standard revote date, the third Tuesday in June. We can't pull transportation, so.
What's the reason?
Okay, so any questions on that? You just stop the share. Anything from the board?
I just wanted to maybe double back to something that you had mentioned with the BOCES increase. And I think, it's a beautiful thing for the community as far as increasing funding for special needs. What percentage of that $6 million is going to be allocated towards special needs?
Probably 4.5 million to 5 million of that
Wow.
increase is strictly
fantastic.
special education.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, Rhonda gave us a really fantastic presentation on our
Yeah,
budget.
she did, very detailed.
We're doing
Yep,
that.
she did, yeah.
We've gone up about 1,000 students in the last 4 to 5 years.
And I know that Stacy, the needs that the students are coming in with are just so far above, the needs that we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And it's not just behavioral, it's, academic and, some of the,
Speech
even
is
daily,
common.
Activity needs that need to be taken care of.
The
so-
OTPT. And I will say, it's not a uniquely Brentwood issue. I have spoken to other superintendents, as does Stacy, and, every school district is experiencing it,
I think it's great we're going to have an opportunity to really do some great work with them.
You have to know, too, that we, first of all, we have terrific administrators, and the cabinet is really just exceptional, and they really get ahead of a lot of problems. And our kindergarten principals, Rosa Nieves and Minerva Feliciano, they've done a terrific job. What they're doing is we're trying to identify students who are in need of assistance, and we're giving them as much help as possible. So hopefully, we'll prevent them actually ever going into the special ed realm. So they're identifying students that are, behind in reading and writing and in speech, and we're trying to give services to those kids and try to preempt the special ed process. So, and that's what we're, just one of the many things we're trying to
And
do.
we've always done that, but we're doing
Yeah,
it.
we did.
a little
We're
more
doing it in a big way now.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
as you mentioned, Julie, I think it's an important thing to note for the community too, that we are,
Yeah.
the EIP you know, we had to do it many years ago to save money. And also, we did think that the county was going to have enough seats for our students, but as it turns out, same thing I just referred to earlier, that every school district has seen an explosion, you know, in 3 and 4-year-olds needing services, so it really, we started to bring back EIP this year. We're gonna bring back more, students next year onto the campus.
You know, and hopefully that'll yield a better result for our kindergartners coming in.
Exactly.
Because we didn't have the services for them and COVID came as well.
Mhm.
You know, we have a lot of kindergartners that are coming in so far behind, that it's taken us,
Yeah.
you know, all of these resources to bring them up to speed.
Absolutely, yeah, hopefully we get ahead of it.
Hopefully we'll be in a better place. Any other questions from the board first and then Brandon? A great question.
That's a great question. And actually, I met, after that meeting, I met with the solar company, and a rep from PSE&G. They don't do it that way anymore. So it's as each building comes online, we'll start seeing savings from the buildings. Yeah, yeah. So we have maybe half online right now. So even though you see the panels, like South Middle's been up for a while, we had to have PSE&G put a pole up and then a transformer, so it looks like it's up, it looks like it's running, it's not yet. But yeah, about half of them are operating now. I hope a lot. I really don't know until I see it. It's weather dependent. I mean, there are other factors in that too. But what we've seen on some of the buildings that have been operating, whether they were actually generating the power or not at that time, but you could still see some of how the sun was hitting it. I mean, obviously the summer, we have longer days and it's, you know, sunnier, and we did very well there. Winter, the shorter days, we don't see as much savings. But there are savings
Yeah,
regardless.
could we maybe at some
Absolutely.
point get like a report on that? I
Yeah,
think that
oh
would
yeah,
be a
we'll have
great
the
thing
company
to be
come in
able
and,
to-
and,
yeah.
I think they
give us
should give us a
overview.
presentation. Now, you know, East Middle,
You know,
for
now the
example.
savings specifically.
Right.
You know, that's, I think, really enticing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
See
that's
it.
a great
Yeah.
idea to have
Yeah.
them in. Maybe we can have them in September.
sure.
Now, Stace, we have, East Middle. Could you identify some of the schools that are up? I shouldn't do that to you, but I
yeah,
know
yeah.
like East Middle is up and, because
East
they
Middle
were,
is up,
they were
East
one of
K
the
is
first.
not, Twin Pines is up, I said South Middle's not.
Mhm.
Some of West Middle is up, because we're gonna add there. Not Laurel or Loretta, not the high school, we're still working.
Right, yeah, they're still working.
Freshman Center's up.
Mm. Oh,
So
that's
when you
good.
say up, you mean they're connected and generating energy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
From- Any other questions?
Yes, the line, I don't know if we say this every year, but we do have the, line items. Can the community ever see this, or
Yeah,
where do they see that?
They have this budget, we
They do.
handed this out.
Right, we do, okay.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions, this concludes our budget hearing for the year. And if any questions come up after today, please feel free to contact the superintendent's office or Stacy O'Connor's office.
Yeah, just give me a call if I'm not around, we'll
Yes.
be out a couple days next week, Eric will be around, he can help you.
Thank you so much for coming out,
And-
those of you who did. And those of you who are viewing at home, we have no questions from home, but we know we always have people viewing, so we appreciate everybody's presence. Thank you so much.
Could you just remind them,
Sure.
did we say May 16th? Was it up there?
It was up there at the
Hassan
end.
said it, yeah.
Okay, and you
yes.
did say it, right,
May
okay.
16th is the
Yep.
budget, folks, so
Yeah,
please
that's
don't
right,
miss
May
it.
16th.
Yeah.
Very important.
And if you don't know where you need to go, our district
Yes.
clerk, Kathy Hoey, will be very happy to help you.
Yeah,
You
can
wanna-
I
It's also on the
Let people know, yeah,
website.
where they can
Yeah,
go.
but you have to go through your clerk, right? Through your link? Like go on
Yes,
district
if you go
clerk?
on the
Can you
district
please explain
clerk.
that? Because that's always confusing.
Yes,
You
you
almost
can
got away.
search to where you vote. You don't have to put your name, you just put your address in, your street, and it'll tell you what school
Thank
to
you so
go
much. for
to.
coming. All right, but just important to note that they do have to click on the district clerk
Go
in
on
order
to our
get that.
website, look for district clerk.
Right,
And then
and
if you
then-
scroll down, you'll see.
Can we
You'll see.
maybe add something to the front page of our website? Because people who don't know that are never gonna be able to find it. You know what I mean? Like, we know because we're sitting here and we're hearing it, and I've heard it before, but you can't just get on the website and know that. So, can
Vanya
you
and Rick
please-
tomorrow?
And maybe something
Yes.
temporary, right?
Yeah.
till the
Yeah,
16th?
just
And
for-
identify
between
it.
now and election
Yeah, that's
day.
all. Yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
You're
just so
right.
people know where to look.
Maybe a picture with Kathy with a thumbs up. No? Are you sure?
No.
I don't know. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it
Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, so obviously, again, because we don't have a quorum, we don't need a motion to end, so we're just clearly, at the end of
We'll
our
just
meeting,
drift
and
out.
we thank you so much.
One by one.
This is it's our informal, formal budget meeting. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Have a good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
Julie. Good night now. Good night now. Our informal, formal.